In an industry dominated by younger bros and hustle culture, what does it mean to scale smartly in your 40s?
Like if I had only known when I was 20 what I know now about real estate.
But you and I are about. Jeremy De Grasse didn't just leave his W-2 job. He reimagined his entire life in the Adirondacks.
Leave my W-2. I knew that was my goal, but I didn't know exactly what it was yet. I'd had the history, doing short-term rentals. I was researching. I always knew it was going to be real estate. I just didn't know how.
Jeremy's story mirrors mine in uncanny ways, from tech and media jobs in the corporate world to becoming new dads later on in life with side gigs that turned into our full-time careers.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great that people typically buy these properties as a second home or an investment, and that you can manage that property and you can...
If you're stuck wondering if it's too late to start over, this episode is for you. My name is Jason Muth. I'm a 33-time Airbnb superhost. After working in the media business for over 25 years, I started my chapter 2 in the world of short-term rentals. Since then, I've hosted over 6,800 guests and their furry friends at our lovely vacation rentals. Between what we own and what we're managing for other people, it's over $30 million worth of real estate. This show is all about helping you create a smart stay, personal, profitable, and built to last. It's real world hosting done smart. Let's talk to Jeremy.
Yes,
this is Jeremy De Grasse,
inviting me.
And Jeremy is operating properties in the beautiful Adirondacks of upstate New York, where 5 years ago, I had to actually look at this on my photos. I went to the map feature and we were there 5 years ago, staying at the COA outside of Lake Placid, where during COVID, when everybody was camping, we rented an Airstream from near where you live in Saratoga. And I hope it wasn't your Airstream because we did dent the crap out of it. And I felt terrible. That's a whole nother story. And it's involved Rory and his ability to back it up. But God bless him.
I've got so many trailer stories, but
we stayed at that COA. We went to Lake Placid. We went to, the Finger Lakes region, and we went to Bolt Castle, like way up in what's that, the St. Lawrence River? Yeah,
on the river.
All places in New York that, as a native New Yorker, I'd never been to, embarrassingly enough. So good for you for being able to live in that part of the country. Especially this time of year. We went in October when all the leaves changed. Man, yeah, you got a special place there.
It is amazing. And as we were talking about, I'm a native Vermonter, so I'm, snow, foliage, New England. I'm so used to that. And it's funny you talk about Lake Placid. I lived in Lake Placid for about 10 years. My folks lived there for 30 years. So I've been spending years going to the Lake Placid area. I love it up there. Where actually I met my wife when we got together. We were living up there, and we miss it terribly. Now we're down
I was
there,
so struck
Springs.
by like the beauty of these like Adirondack homes, and the timber elements of the outside of the homes. Actually, we had during that trip, I think that we actually finally decided to pull the trigger on building one of our properties that we built, which is called Camelot Chalet. It's in New Hampshire. It's one of the 5 that we own that are income properties. We've been sitting on this land for a long time, and we bought plans, and we just kind of sat on the plans. And on that trip, boy, Rory and I were having lots of conversations about doing a log home. Let's just do a log home instead. I couldn't find someone that could build a log home the right way. Plus, banks don't want to finance log properties. So I went back to the stick build and just tried to add some timber elements to it, because we saw so many beautiful timber frame properties like outside Lake Placid. And it was on that trip 5 years ago that we finally decided to pull the trigger and build that home. And that has been the best. It was the best decision. It's like we got a 3% construction loan a year later when the rates were so ridiculously low that converted into a 30-year note. Built this property, by far the best one that like we have in the portfolio. So I'd like to think that upstate New York inspired us.
It can be very inspiring. Some of those great camps up there around the lakes are just amazing. Built in the 20s and the 30s. It's such a beautiful country. And we're lucky to be close enough to it still. An hour and a half.
Now you run Drifter Stays, which I love your logo. I love the cool retro camper van with your wife Nicole. And who's the brains and
Yes.
who's the brawn or the, the, how do you do
Oh
it?
boy, it depends on the subject, I
How do you
guess.
split up the traction?
So I am definitely, yeah. So I'm definitely the outward facing, part of Drifter Stays. I do, the networking events, and I'm out there trying to get
Hmm.
clients and that type of thing. Where Nicole she's a whiz at systems and operations. She's actually been running her own business for 8 years. She's been self-employed. She has a business support agency. It's kind of like a VA agency. So, and that's what she
Hmm.
specializes in. So when I was sort of starting to grow Drifter Stays, and she could see me working my W-2, trying to take care of, 3, 4, 5 properties. She's like, do you want me to start managing the cleaners for you? And I said, yes, thank God.
So
Absolutely.
here's how
So,
many parallels we have, you and I, unknowingly, before I just learned this, like literally before we hit record. And I record with all these like young whippersnappers on this podcast, and I could say this being an older
yeah.
guy. Like I kind of relate to all generations, and I've always been the youngest. Like I graduated high school when I was 16. I was always the youngest around everything. Now suddenly I'm the oldest, right? Because we're hanging around these real estate
Yeah.
investors
Right.
who are in their like 20s and 30s and doing
Mm-hmm.
this dynamic stuff that you and I were probably like, man, why didn't we figure that out like 10, 15 years ago? But at least we finally got there, right?
If I had a nickel every time I said that to myself, like if I had only known when I was
Yeah.
20 what I know now about real estate
But
and
you and I are
finance,
about
that's
we're
a whole
about the
other
same age.
podcast.
I'm looking at the gray in your hair, and I'm looking at the gray in my
Yeah.
hair, and I'm like, okay, we're probably about the same age, and we are. And then
Yeah.
you said you made a
Mm-hmm.
comment that you got started a little bit later in life, and you have, how old are your kids now?
Good. 4 and 6, and I
Yeah,
just
and I
turned
have a
51.
6-year-old, just didn't just turn 50. 51's coming up, I think. But so man, we're in the thick of it together. These older dads. How do you
Yeah.
feel when you're around the younger dads? Like, do you feel
Mm-hmm.
like you're one of them?
Yeah. I mean, what do they say? Everybody in
Yeah.
their mind, we all feel
Oh,
like we're
I feel like I'm
25.
18, honestly.
So, yeah.
Here's the weird thing. I actually listened to, there's this DJ that does these old retro alternative shows on Twitch of all things, which I'm not on Twitch besides this one guy, but I follow
Okay.
him. Like he's doing like the
Yeah.
best of 1994 on Friday or Saturday night. I put it in my calendar because I want to sit back and watch these
Oh, great.
videos from that year. And I'm an old radio guy, so I remember all this stuff. In my formative years of radio were literally 1992 to 95, 96. So like I know everything about everything in the alternative
Mm-hmm.
world during those years. And I think about that and I'm like, man, I was an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid back then. But I still, when I watch those videos and hear that music, I think of myself as that age. You probably do too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I was just, we were just, what was it on Sirius XM,
Hmm.
in the car. I put on the 90s channel the other day, and then
Hmm.
Lithium. I'm like, oh my God, all these songs. I want to introduce my kids to, the music that I listened to, because I did. I listened to alternative and grunge and punk and, all this stuff. And now it's like, alt
Yeah.
country,
It,
it's a little,
is your
a
6-year-old a
little
girl
different.
or a boy? Okay, so
She's a girl.
is she into K-pop Demon
Yeah.
Hunters?
She's just barely started to pick
Yeah.
up on that a little bit. And she was watching it a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't realize
Hmm.
it was a thing until it popped up in the news somewhere. And I was like, oh, I think I saw that, somewhere on
Yeah.
the TV or whatever. And yeah, it's a thing. And they sing and
Well,
hunt
the
demons.
songs though. I mean, like my daughter acted out an entire song. They had a
Yeah.
whole skit from she and her friends at camp. Yeah,
Oh,
and they
no
performed
way.
it for us multiple times. It's, and here we're blabbing about this, but the point of this here in Smart Stay Show is
Yeah.
that
Right.
we can have these second lives and second chapters in our careers and still talk about young kids and still talk about short-term rentals and still be happy in what we're doing, right? You and I both worked W-2 jobs for a
Yeah.
long time, I'm guessing. Yeah. What
Oh,
did
yeah.
you do as
Yeah.
your kind of full-time gig?
Yes. This is a whole, almost a third
Uh-huh.
career for me. I started I was in the tech field. I worked for a business based out of Boston, doing tech work, like help desk stuff and networking and different things. And then I ended up working with my family business doing communications cabling. We installed
Hmm.
fiber optic networks, data networks, telephone cabling. So that was, and then I actually got into kind of, I part of my trajectory. And when I knew that I wanted to leave and leave my W-2, I got into purposely got myself into sales just so I could make more money, bank more money, because I knew I was making this exit. So, but I was in the tech industry, so networking and
What was
security.
your last W-2 paycheck? What year?
It was this year.
Or-
Yeah. I left my job June 1st,
Okay.
2025.
So I'm on 3 years now.
Yeah.
Fully out, right?
Okay.
How do you feel
Yeah.
about this?
I
Okay.
love it. I mean, there was plenty of hesitancy and plenty of fear and thinking about how do I do this? How do I make it work? But I just, I want to spend so much time with my kids and spend time with my family. And I love working for myself. And honestly, I've always gravitated that way. I did spend a couple of years running my own business, and I've always had side gigs ever since I was probably a teenager. I've always had some sort of side gig, and finally wanted to make it
Yeah, on the
permanent.
website for Drifter Stays, it says that you've been hosting travelers since 2014. And I saw in your Airbnb
Yeah,
profile you have like over 400 reviews. So this isn't like a new thing that you just got into. You didn't say, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to leave my W-2 and maybe I'll do that short-term
no,
rental thing." Right? So you've been at it for a while.
yeah. I started. I was living just outside of Lake Placid. We lived on a very busy road. I had a camper. And it's funny, I was thinking about it earlier today. It was actually because the family business was struggling a bit. So we were looking to make any kind of money we could, just to help out. And I'm like, what's this let me try this Airbnb thing. I have a camper. I'm like, let's just put it out there. I was shocked. I was amazed. Hikers,
Mm-hmm.
because people go to the Adirondacks to hike. They rented that camper all
Really?
summer long for 50 to $100 a night, depending on
Yeah.
what time of year it was, from May to November. It was booked at least 20 nights
Did you
a
have an
month.
outhouse or something, or
And
where'd they
I,
go?
so it was actually parked next
Uh-huh.
to our business. So inside of our business, we had an office, but the office had a kitchen and a full bathroom. So I would tell people, hey, come on in, use the bathroom, use the laundry, whatever you need. And for hikers, it was
Wow,
perfect.
what
So
an
that's how I
easy way
got
to make it
started.
work. That's where the logo came from too, right?
Yeah.
That's a camper.
Well, no, that was just something that my wife
Yeah.
and I love branding. It's just something that we're into, And I think it probably came like post COVID area where there was so much work from home and there, nomad, workers and people traveling around. I think that's kind of where the van logo came
Yeah,
from.
I mean, COVID is when we
Yeah.
did our jaunt through upstate New York, as I was mentioning earlier. All these places that like as a
Yeah.
downstater, I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know where they are. They're north somewhere, right? It's a very
Yeah.
egotistical outside of New York City way of thinking of the beautiful state of New York City or New York.
Yeah.
Okay, so all
Yeah.
right, so you just left your W-2 job, so this is all new that you're doing this full time.
I did.
What's the state of Drifter Stays? Like, what do you have in your portfolio now? Like about 10 properties or so?
So we started so when we started
Mm-hmm.
the mastermind, how we know each other, was it January 2024? I had one arbitrage
Okay.
property. So a little bit back to my history. We did a couple of properties up in Lake Placid, and then a few life changes happened. We moved down here, got married, had kids, and I was looking for something to leave my W-2. I knew that was my goal, but I didn't know exactly what it was yet. I'd had the history, doing short-term rentals. I was researching wholesaling and, BRRRR investing. I always knew it was going to be real estate. I just didn't know how. And then I think I probably heard a podcast, Bigger Pockets or something, Avery Carl or something. And I was like, oh, people do short-term rentals for a business. I was like, that had never clicked before. And just so happens my in-laws were buying a property in Tampa that they wanted to have for their summer home. And I'm like, oh, I'll run it as an Airbnb for you. So it kind of got me back into it. And then we ended up getting this arbitrage property because we wanted to try arbitrage. There's a quick way into it. And I met somebody from going to real estate networking events, and they're like, yeah, we do BRRRR investing. We have these properties for rent. We'd love to do it. We actually still have that property, but that was the first one we had. And then we had the one in Tampa, and then we had some other friends who had another house in the Adirondacks. So we were managing 3 properties. And then they both sold their properties. So we were down to the one. That's when I got into STR Secrets. And then we just slowly kept building and building. We got up to 14 total properties that we had signed. We're in a bit of a transition phase right now where I just left my W-2. We also just went through our busy season. I don't know if you know, I mean, you know Saratoga. So June, July, and August is half of the entire year's revenue.
We're like that in Provincetown, which is where Pride Away stays. Our business is more than 50%. And actually today I just sent out, a few $100,000 worth of owner payouts, and it felt great. It really felt good. I don't know if you get that good feeling when you send these payouts out. I was
absolutely.
Like, man, like this is a good amount of money that these owners are making with this property. And I feel, beholden to them. And I feel like we contributed to be able to do that.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, it's really great that people typically buy these properties as a second home or an investment, and that you can manage that property and you can do it well enough where you're sending them this huge, chunk of money. It does make you feel good. And, to let them know that you're taking care of their investment.
So you're still in the honeymoon phase of leaving your W-2. And I remember that phase very, very, very clearly. And I had intention. I literally sat down and said, 18 months, I'm going to give it 18 months. I think I'm going to do this full time, but I'm going to give myself 18 months to ramp myself up. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, which is the wrong mindset anyway. But I was like, let me do everything I can in my power in those 18 months to get myself to the point that I am this new person that you now see today. Right. So I joined STR Secrets immediately, like within a month or so after meeting Chris Petsy, one of the coaches who's been on this podcast. And I think after 18 months, I was like well on the way, to the point that now it's been 3 years and I barely even remember who that person is. And I still talk to people from that world. And here's one thing that I've been doing a lot of lately. Like, we also have Smart Stay Coaching, which is a companion to this show, where people can reach out to us if they're not in one of our markets and we could help them. We're running stuff on social media, ads or posts or whatever we're doing. And I'm just having neighbors and friends like just talk about the amount of stuff that they're seeing us putting out there content wise. And part of me feels uncomfortable for having done that to their feeds. But the other part of me is like, this is part of the rebranding. So where are you in that, in that stage of your life?
So stage of my life, I'm very much enjoying being without the W-2. And I am at a point where I'm very intentional about the things that I do, because as we talked about my age and, young kids, and where, as a younger adult, I really didn't have a lot of intention. So, now, that's everything. Spending time with my kids and focusing on this business to make sure that I can provide for them so we can build a legacy. So that's where my mind's at right now. And so we're in from the business aspect, we're definitely in as I said before, transition phase where we actually just got rid of a few clients. And then we're bringing on some other clients. So it's time to really hone in our systems. That's what we're focusing on right now, is really building out our systems and making sure that we have everything on point to do some fast growth.
I'm going to ask about that in a second, but let me hone in on losing the clients, right? What goes into the calculus if you decide that you're the one that wants to let go of the client? Like, how do you come to that decision?
That's tough. It really depends on the client. So the clients that we got rid of, they came from total different directions, and they're completely different ends of the spectrum clients. Some small properties so we took on some properties from another manager that was getting out of the business, but it was when we were early on, we only had a handful of properties. And so we brought on 3 and we're like, oh, that doubles our, property count, helps us build our business. The management percentage was high. It was 30%. I was like, okay, we'll do this. In the long run, I probably knew better of it. Like there were some properties that the reviews weren't that great. We did as well as we could have with those properties, but um, so it just came time. There was more work than it was worth. So you definitely weigh out the A is a reputation thing. We were getting some poor reviews. That's huge. They weren't making all that much money, and the time that it takes to manage those properties. Then you figure out, is it really worth it? And then on the other end of the scale, we had a huge property, a beautiful property that we we had issues with the owners and not the property itself. And it was just some butting of heads and looking at things from different perspectives, and we could never quite get on the same page. So we decided that one's going to go too. So there's a lot of things that go into that calculation.
It's interesting that you say that because, we've been told by, our forebears, people that have built these short-term rental management companies before us, that we probably will take on more clients at the beginning that we'll probably get rid of at some point because they don't fit into where we're headed. But in the moment, you're looking for anything. Right. You basically take any conversation, and we are not taking everything on. Like usually when there's a property that reaches out to us that we maybe have a discovery call with, send a contract to, we don't really want, either we won't send the contract or we'll say it's not the right fit, or we'll just kind of not follow up. Right. We'll kind of not ghost them because I don't want to ghost people, but we won't be aggressive in trying to get them to sign up. Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've had those conversations with people because we get a lot of people that reach out to us, a lot of incoming leads. And, after you look at the property, you just know it's either depending on its location or, what you figure it's going to do revenue wise. Is it worth all the effort it takes to run a property the right way and then only make a certain amount of money? That's a lot of opportunity cost.
We, at this point, like I look at our portfolio, and a couple of the properties that I was a little hesitant to take on have actually done really well. So I'm still in the mindset of I'm not going to pass up these opportunities if I think there's any kind of hope there, because I'm also trying to value the company. Like we want to build these companies that are worth something, whether we choose to operate it in perpetuity or sell the company. And you want to bring on properties that are going to be additive to your company. You bring up a good point about getting some bad reviews. I'd rather not take on a property that I think is going to lead to some bad reviews. That's going to bring our overall scores down. I mean, like we're sitting with, I don't even know how many reviews we have on Airbnb, over 750 or something like that. At this point, I might be making that up, over 600. I think it's over 7 something with a 4.96 rating, right? The more we do, it's hard. It's very hard, right? Although we started this company, I had a 4.94. So like it's gone up. And I think it's because we built we got good properties, we built good systems. We asked for a lot of 5-star reviews and we delivered the good experience. So we were able to stack up a lot of them. And there have been a handful of bad reviews along the way, as there always are going to be. But you bring up a great point. I don't want to take on properties, nor do you if you're listening to this, that are just going to be a suck on your reputation or your time and your mind. And the companion piece to that statement, you maybe have this too. Have you ever written a firing note to a client that you didn't send? I've done it twice. I'm not going to say who. If you're listening to this, I'm not going to say it because you didn't get it, right?
Yeah.
I've twice written I don't think this is working out. And I just sat on it and I didn't send it. And it's in the draft. I don't even know where it is anymore. And I've even sent it to like a business partner. I'm like, I want to send this. And then I just don't. And thankfully at this point I haven't yet. Right. Because we do love all of our clients and we've worked through some issues with some of them, but man, it's tempting, isn't it? Like, because your reputation, you have to uphold that.
Absolutely. And the stress levels, I tell you, I mean, the situation that I went through caused me a ton of stress because I want to do a good job. I want to make the owner happy. You want to make the guests happy. So there's a lot that goes into that, and a lot of late nights where you're trying to make sure
Yeah.
everything goes smoothly.
What do you think are some of the challenges you faced the past couple months since you moved away from a W-2 into doing this now full time? Because again, a lot of people that we hear from, I'm hearing from a lot of people on LinkedIn these days, like that are about our age,
Yeah.
right? These people that are in their
Hmm.
40s who kind of, they probably don't think they're infallible at work and totally protected, but you look at the world around us. I mean, the
Sure.
employers are in control these
Yeah.
days, and they're, the first ones to like cross people off their budgets. And the first people to go are people our age, right? I mean, like seriously, it's these 40-year-olds
Yeah. No
that are
kidding.
making too much money that they could get
Yeah.
somebody or AI to make half their salary. And
Oh,
they're the
for
ones
sure.
that are out there left to
Yeah.
dry. So they're trying to figure out what to do next. So that's why I think that I'm hearing from a lot of people that are that age. And I welcome the conversations, but you've been there, you left. Like, so what are those challenges that you've had, in these past couple of months?
So there's definitely, I mean, as with anything,
Mm-hmm.
there's pros and cons. Um, the challenge is for me, I'm I'm so focused on making sure I attain my goals. I've got, lofty goals, whether it's revenue or taking care of my family, that type of thing, that it's just a different type of stress. Like I used to, have a probably mostly self-inflicted, but
Mm-hmm.
I was in a sales role and, you're always trying to
Get the next sale.
do the
Yeah.
next thing and make sure you're keeping your customers happy. Yeah. Um, so there was that, but now it's just totally different. Now it's just, it's a serious, you put yourself in a serious place. You're, what's the phrase?
Mm-hmm.
You eat what you kill. You're out here, making it happen. And then to make it a little more lighthearted, at the same point, I share this 10 by 10 office with my wife, and I have two little
Is she there
kids.
now?
And so she's working
Okay.
in the dining room right now.
Yeah. Well, I
So,
share the space
yeah.
you see here, Rory's desk is right across from me, right? So, usually we're either, if we're both down here together, it's headphones on because I'm also an only child, right? Like I
Yeah.
need my space and I need my focus time. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So a
okay.
lot of the work that I
Yeah.
get done, I don't know about you, but I'm usually up early. Like my body just wakes me up early because
I'm an early
as you get older
riser.
you got to
Yeah.
go pee in the middle of the night, and the next thing you know you're up, or there's a 6-year-old sleeping next to you pushing you off the bed, which is kind of what's happened to us lately. So I'm up early, right? And
Yep.
I have
I know that
a
feeling.
good hour or two of work. I'm not a miracle morning person. I'm not
Mhm.
a workout in the morning person. Let me clear through some stuff in the morning and I'll feel better about 7 o'clock when others get up.
Yeah. I'd love to get up early. Before I was in sales, I was basically on the
Mm-hmm.
construction side of things in the field that I worked in. I was either in the field or a project manager, and construction guys, we were always on the job site at 7.
Oh yeah. So
So
yeah,
I've always been up, at
that's
5
easy.
o'clock. So that's still what I do. I'm still up at 5 every day, which works out great because yes, I have time in the morning. Kids usually aren't up until
Mm-hmm.
6:30, 7 o'clock. So that I love
Yeah.
quiet mornings. That's my favorite.
Let's talk about some self-doubt,
Yeah.
because like, does that ever creep in, like that you're doing the wrong
Yeah.
thing, or that you're not equipped to do what you're doing with your business now?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, from now, but even before, when I was making the decision to leave my W-2, I'd get to a point where I was making the most money I'd ever made in my life. I mean, not saying
Mm-hmm.
but it was 6 figures, it's a sales job. So, and, I'm trying to figure out, all right, when do I leave? How do I structure this? How much money do I set aside? And I'm not somebody that makes a quick decision. I definitely labor over things quite a bit, and yeah, I had a lot of self doubt. What happens if it goes wrong? What the economy could we could have another COVID. There's all these things that can. But at the same time, my desire to work for myself, I've always had that. As I said before, I've always had these side gigs, and I have. We always talk about a couple different aspects. One is your children. They talk about 18 summers. the time that you spend with your kids is in the beginning part of their life for the most part. And then there's the personal side of it, is not wanting to get to the end of my life with any regrets. So I have this desire to carve my own path, work for myself. I could not see living the next 20 years going into an office, sitting at a desk and working for somebody else. I've been wanting to do something for myself for years and years, and now I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So there's still self-doubt there, don't get me wrong, but something I work on all the time. As you know, we were talking earlier into some of the mastermind stuff, some of the material that we study. It helps, and I'm actually diving into that pretty deeply lately.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that I somehow came to that revelation that I needed to rebrand myself when I left, the job in the media world, and people knew me as working in, the radio business, television business, like digital media for a long time. I had to I had to prove to them in my head that I was now somebody else. Right? Especially because like when I left, it wasn't
Mhm.
my decision to leave, despite the fact that I was going to months later. And despite the fact that people that we know that have coached us told me that I mentally left 9 months before I did. And they're right. It's a different way to spin it,
Yeah.
but they're 100% right. There was still that moment where I
Mhm.
said, all right, I need to show everybody that I'm fine and that I'm moving on and that I am this other person right now. And I almost think I've beaten that with a dead horse. But what I learned in the radio industry is like just when you think you play the hits enough, you got to play it again. So, I keep talking about it. Like I can't just assume that everybody that
Yeah.
I encounter knows what I'm up to, or even new people that don't
Oh
know
yeah.
who I am, that they've seen all my content and they know
Hmm.
everything about my story. Like I have no idea what everyone's story is. So you got to just keep
Yeah.
telling it. That's why these bands from the 90s are still singing, fastball is out there singing the way over
Seriously.
and over and over. That's the song that made the money, right? So it's probably going to be
Yeah.
part of their
Right.
gig when you see them.
Oh yeah.
um,
Yeah. No
Go
doubt.
ahead.
It's such a good
So, all
point.
right. So what is next for you, and all the work that you've done at Drifter Stays? You talked about some operations that you guys are looking to button up a little bit.
Yeah, so we're streamlining operations right now. Now that we're into September, we're into our shoulder season. Things slow down a little bit. We don't have back to back to back, constantly. So we're spending time instituting some software. I'm sure you've talked about it before, but we're getting Host
Mm-hmm.
Buddy up to speed, which
Mm-hmm.
has been great. And I love that technology. I mean, AI. I mean, things are going to change over the next couple of years, real quick. So I spend a little bit of time every day just researching
Mm-hmm.
AI in general, just because I don't want to kind of be left behind. We talked about using
Mm-hmm.
Notion. That is something that we are looking into. Actually, we're not looking into it. We're implementing that right now. So we've been kind of doing things by the seat of our pants, to be honest. We have not had things as buttoned down as I would like. And Nicole feels the same way. Things we are not up to our own
Yeah.
standards right now, and that's kind of biting us in
we
the butt.
we had Jay Elric from Host Buddy on the podcast. He's the one of the founders,
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
I'm trying to link up with him when I'm out in San Diego in a couple of weeks. So hopefully at that point we'll be able to meet in person. But I've been very complimentary about his product. After we had him on, we tried it out at our 5 properties. Because if I was going to make a mistake, it would be on the ones that we own. And it was great. So then
Yeah.
we extended it to everything that we're managing, to the point that
Mhm.
on this past Sunday, my 2 VAs were both not working for the day. One of them was off, and one just had the day off scheduled. So I was like, I'll just do it. I'll do the backup work. And early on the day, I was like, I'm just going to turn on Host Buddy for the day. So I scheduled it for the rest of the day. And then if there were any things that really
Yeah.
needed to get attended to, I jumped in. And mind you,
Sure.
Host.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this, wondering what the heck is Host Buddy, there is an episode about Host Buddy that you can listen to from the Smart State Show. But Host Buddy basically can be your customer service arm of responding to questions that are coming up, and you feed its database with great information about your property, and then it can put together responses that you could actually kind of guide over time and give thumbs up, thumbs down to, or tell it how to respond. It's not perfect. Sometimes it does things that you're like, oh, I wouldn't have said that, or like, oh my God, I can't believe that you offered that thing. Now I have to go do that. And by no means is it going to be the be all end all. It's not interacting with my cleaners. It's not showing up and bringing deliveries inside. It's not filling out resolution center claims with Airbnb, right? But it is helping our business. And I'm sure you're going to find that's going to help your business once you get that like uploaded and just set up correctly, because you got to set it up correctly too.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of time. We did the same thing. We put it on one property. The property, our arbitrage property, we've had the longest, and it runs the smoothest to this day. But we set it up on that property, said we'll test it out, and we were happily surprised at how well it worked. On a different property, it did schedule me to actually pay a visit to somebody because I had responded to somebody who had an issue. I can't remember what it was. And I said, well, I may be in the area, is there a good time, that I could come by? And then Host Buddy jumped in and was like, all right, great. We'll be there in 30 minutes. So
Host Buddy promised one of our guests that there was a soup pot at the property because they wanted to stay in and make soup. And I'm like, there's no soup pot at this property. So like I got a soup pot to the property.
Yeah, right.
I think a couple weeks ago with some incoming guests this weekend, Host Buddy promised a late checkout for $50. And I was just like, where did you get that from? Like, it's a same day turnover. I'm not sure I can honor this, but let me figure out what we can do, talk to the cleaners and see if they can show up a little bit later. But yeah, every so often, like Host Buddy kind of goes off on a tangent where you're like, but 99% of the time, I think it's fun.
But for the most part, it's been phenomenal. And that's something that I've always had on my plate is doing guest communications.
I did too. And, we teach people with Smart Stay coaching how to not move on from it altogether, because especially the people that we work with have like one property, right? So even when you have one property, you could set all these automations up, or you could be the one that's responding to everything. But I don't know about you, Jeremy, but I was responding to every message myself for the first 7 years of my doing it without automations. I didn't bring Hospitable involved until 3 years ago, so it's a lot. I mean, like it wasn't as many properties. Like early on, it was like 2-3 properties.
Sure.
But once you kind of get past that point, you need to have automated booking messages going out, automated checkout messages going out, automated how is everything doing messages going out. Hospitable, you use OwnerRes, right? On your website? That's what I'm seeing. What's their AI like?
Yeah. I don't know yet. It's still in beta.
Okay.
So I requested, it's still in beta. So, I mean, there's tons of automations you can do. You can build any automated message you could think of, and with different triggers and things, but you have to build everything. So it doesn't work it's not a response. It's not a conversation. These are canned messages that go out. So I hear good things about its AI, but I also hear that, well, it's not Host Buddy yet.
And, Hospitable has AI as well, which, basically if you want to, that's what we use, Hospitable, and we love it. And if you want to respond to a message in AI, you could just hit the button, respond with AI, and read it. And then you could either edit the message, send it as is, or you could just redo the whole message. I think there's a way to just like scrap it and redo it. I think that I need to update what I fed Hospitable. Like, for example, somebody was asking about places to go hiking and restaurants for an upcoming visit, and Hospitable was going to make a recommendation of one that has closed. And to me, I think I made the mistake of not updating its database of understanding that restaurant has moved on and changed to a different one. But when I hit the button and I was about to send that message, I was like, oh, look at that. It still thinks that one's open. So let me go figure that out. And that's a lesson to everybody. If you are using these AI tools, the AI tools are really, really good. But if you're not giving it the right information for it to learn from, or you're not updating that information, it's going to be sending out bad information. And I'd rather send out nothing than bad info. So that's a lesson to me also, that I have to like constantly remember that I have to kind of update what I've taught Hospitable AI, right? They have no idea that like this restaurant just closed and is now a Mexican restaurant, but that's on me. Yeah.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. And you mentioned VAs. That's another thing where we have no
okay.
VAs yet. So it's all been just the two of us. So we're actually actively hiring right now. We're looking for our first VA.
What?
So this is a whole off season of,
Right.
building and
We have two people that, well, I have a couple social media people also that work virtually. But one of our virtual assistants is also the producer of this podcast, Dan, who I've referred to many times. What's up, Dan? He's listening to this right now. He's great with customer service and also is a whiz at podcast production, audio, video, does some graphics for us. I figured there was going to be some downtime in between messaging and dealing with cleaners that special projects would pop up. And this was one of them. So my advice to you, if you're looking to, kind of
yeah,
get
it's great.
VAs a little more well-rounded with all your businesses, is to try to find some things to keep people engaged in between the slow times. Because, I mean, it now. I mean, a
Hmm.
Tuesday in the off season, even with like 12, 15, 14 properties, can turn into a big fat nothing in terms of messages. And then if you have
Right.
somebody working the
Oh
whole
yeah.
day, they're just sitting around and being like, there's nothing to do. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. There's plenty of things that I have on my plate, sort of my to-do list over the next few months that I would be happy to have
Yeah.
some help with.
Well, listen, why don't we
Some of
start
the
to
stuff.
wrap up, Jeremy? I really appreciate hearing
Sure.
about all the work you've done with Drifter Stays with your wife and kind of your transition away from your W-2 world into this. We have amazing, it's like a mirror. I'm just looking at someone that, I'm clean shaven. Well, not today. You have a little bit more of a beard. But we definitely
Yeah.
have been leading these parallel lives. What would you say, what's
Yeah.
kind of a final piece of advice you'd give to somebody that is, in that mid-career, or they think mid-career, 40 something office-ish type job that maybe is thinking there's another world out there? Like what advice do you tell either your friends that are in that position or a fictitious friend that might ask you this question?
That's a really good question. And I would start by the way you framed it. I mean, there's absolutely something else out there. Like I said before, I have this fear of being, stuck in a cubicle until I'm
Mm-hmm.
60 or 70 years old. That's not the life I want to lead. Now, everybody has their own wants and desires. If somebody truly wants a different life, don't be afraid to go looking for it. There's something out there. We're in real estate. That's always what I've been drawn to. But there's plenty of other things. We live in this culture and economy now where you can build businesses from home on the internet doing anything. Podcasts, Airbnb, they're all, these businesses that don't take a lot of, you don't have to be somewhere. You don't have to go to an office. So there's something out there, and don't be afraid to go after it. Really look at what you want to do and what your options are. And
Yeah.
there's something out there.
Excellent advice. I feel the same way. I'll let you have the last word there, though, so I don't blab on about something's very similar.
Sure.
Drifterstays.com is your website. We'll link that up here in the show notes. Best of luck with implementing all these new systems and hiring your first VA. Please reach out to me if you have questions about how to do those kind of things, because happy to share some insights off camera. And thank you for listening or watching this show. We really do appreciate it. If you're in the same kind of boat of us, in these career changers, you're that person that you're wondering if the company still gives you the love that you give it, and you're thinking about doing some short-term rentals afterward as a way of having your chapter 2, just like we do. Reach out to me, smartstayshow.com, smartstaycoaching.com. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, you can go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Those are the 3 big places that we get lots of listeners and viewers. And if you want to see past episodes, you can go to smartstayshow.com. They're all posted there. That's it. That's a wrap. Jeremy, thank you so much. Best of luck with everything. I will see you on the coaching calls. All right.
Thanks, Jason.